Chapter 12 of The Children of the New Forest. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Maria Elmvang, Copenhagen, Denmark, April 2007. The Children of the New Forest by Frederick Merritt. Chapter 12.
"A narrow escape, Humphrey," said Edward, as he held his brother's hand.
"Yes, indeed. We may thank Heaven for our preservation," replied Humphrey. "And poor Smoker! Let's see if he was much hurt."
"I trust not," said Edward,
going up to the dog, who remained quite still on the ground, with his tongue out and panting violently. They examined poor Smoker all over very carefully, and found that there was no external wound. But on Edward pressing his side, the animal gave a low howl.
"It is there where the horn of the bull took him," observed Humphrey.
"Yes," said Edward, pressing and feeling softly.
"And he has 2 of his ribs broken. Humphrey, see if you can get him a little water. That will recover him more than anything else. The bull has knocked the breath out of his body. I think he will soon be well again, poor fellow."
Humphrey soon returned with some water from a neighbouring pool. He brought it in his hat and gave it to the dog, who lapped it slowly at first, but afterward much faster, and wagging his tail.
"He will do now," said Edward. "We must give him time to recover himself. Now then, let us examine our quarry. Why, Humphrey, what a quantity of meat we have here! It will take 3 journeys to Lymington at least."
"Yes, and no time to lose, for the weather is getting warm already, Edward. Now, what to do? Will you remain while I go home for the cart?"
"Yes, it is no use both going. I will stay here and watch poor Smoker, and take off the skins ready by the time when you are back again. Leave me your knife as well as my own, for one will soon be blunt."
Humphrey gave his knife to Edward, and taking up his gun, set off for the cottage. Edward had skinned 2 of the bulls before Humphrey's return, and Smoker, although he evidently was in great pain, was on his legs again. As soon as they had finished and quartered the beasts, the cart was loaded and they returned home. They had to return a second time, and both the pony and they were very tired before they sat down to supper. They found the gypsy boy very much recovered and in good spirits. Alice said that he had been amusing Edith and her by tossing up 3 potatoes at a time and playing them like balls, and that he had spun a platter upon an iron skewer and balanced it on his chin. They gave him some supper, which he ate in the chimney corner, looking up and staring every now and then at Edith, to whom he appeared very much attached already.
"Is it good?" said Humphrey to the boy, giving him another venison steak.
"Yes, not have so good supper in Pithole," replied Pablo, laughing. Early on the following morning, Edward and Humphrey set off to Lymington with the cart laden with meat. Edward showed Humphrey all the shops in the streets they were in where the purchases were to be made, introduced him to the landlord of the hostelry, and having sold the meat they returned home. The rest of the meat was taken to Lymington and disposed of by Humphrey on the following day, and the day after that the 3 skins were carried to the town and disposed of.
"We made a good day's work, Edward," said Humphrey, as he reckoned up the money they had made. "We earned it with some risk at all events," replied Edward. "And now, Humphrey, I think it is time that I keep my promise to Oswald, and go over to the attendant's house and pay my visit to the young lady, as I presume she is, and certainly she has every appearance of being one. I want the visit to be over, as I want to be doing."
"How do you mean, Edward?"
"I mean that I want to go out and kill some deer, but I will not do it till after I have seen her. Then I shall have acquitted myself of my visit. I intend to defy the intendant and all his vedeers."
"But why should this visit prevent you going out this very day, if so inclined?"
"I don't know, but she may ask me if I have done so, and I do not want to tell her that I have. Neither do I want to say that I have not, if I have, and therefore I shall not commence till after I have seen her."
"When will you set off?"
"Tomorrow morning, and I shall take my gun, although Oswald desired me not. But after the fight we had with the wild cattle the other day, I don't think it prudent to be unarmed. Indeed, I do not feel comfortable without I have my gun at any time."
Well, I shall have plenty to do when you are away.
The potatoes must be hoed up, and I shall see what I can make of Master Pablo. He appears well enough, and he has played quite long enough, so I shall take him with me to the garden tomorrow, and set him to work. What a quantity of fruit there is a promise of in the orchard this year! And Edward, if this boy turns out of any use, and is of help to me, I think that I shall take all the orchard into garden, and then enclose another piece of ground, and see if we cannot grow some corn for ourselves. It is the greatest expense that we have at present, and I should like to take my own corn to the mill to be ground." "But will not grown corn require a plough and horse?" said Edward. "No, we will try it by hand. 2 of us can dig a great deal at odd times, and we shall have a better crop with the spade than with the plough. We have now so much manure that we can afford it." "Well, if it is to be done, it should be done at once, Humphrey, before the people from the other side of the forest come and find us out, or they will dispute our right to the enclosure." "The forest belongs to the king, brother, and not to the Parliament, and we are the king's liege men, and only look to him for permission," replied Humphrey. "But what you say is true. The sooner it is done the better, and I will about it at once. How much do you propose fencing in?" "About 2 or 3 acres." "But that is more than you can dig this year or the next." "I know that, but I will manure it without digging, and the grass will grow so rich to what it will outside of the enclosure that they will suppose it has been enclosed a long while." "That is not a bad idea, Humphrey, but I advise you to look well after that boy, for he is of a bad race, and has not been brought up, I'm afraid, with too strict notions of honesty. Be careful, and tell your sisters also to be cautious not to let him suppose that we have any money in the old chest, till we find out whether he is to be trusted or not." "Better not let him know it under any circumstances," replied Humphrey. "He may continue honest, if not tempted by the knowledge that there is anything worth stealing." "You're right, Humphrey. Well, I will be off tomorrow morning, and get this visit over. I hope to be able to get all the news from her now that her father is away." "I hope to get some work out of this Pablo," replied Humphrey. "How many things I could do if he would only work! Now, I'll tell you one thing. I'll dig a saw pit and get a saw, and then I can cut out boards and build anything we want. The first time I go to Lymington I will buy a saw. I can afford it now, and I'll make a carpenter's bench for the first thing, and then, with some more tools, I shall get on. And then, Edward, I'll tell you what else I will do." "Then, Humphrey," replied Edward, laughing, "you must tell me some other time, for it is now very late, and I must go to bed, as I have to rise early. I know you have so many projects in your mind that it would take half the night to listen to all of them." "Well, I believe what you say is true," replied Humphrey, "and it will be better to do one thing at a time than to talk about doing 100. So we will, as you say, to bed." At sunrise, Edward and Humphrey were both up. Alice came out when they tapped at her door, as she would not let Edward go without his breakfast. Edith joined them, and they went to prayers. While they were so employed, Pablo came out and listened to what they said. When prayers were over, Humphrey asked Pablo if he knew what they had been doing. "No, not much. Suppose you pray sun to shine." "No, Pablo," said Edith. "Pray to God to make us good." "You bad, then?" said Pablo. "Me not bad." "Yes, Pablo, everybody very bad," said Alice. "But if we try to be good, God forgives us." The conversation was then dropped, and as soon as Edward had made his breakfast, he kissed his sisters and wished Humphrey farewell. Edward threw his gun over his arm, and calling his puppy, which he had named Holdfast, bade Humphrey and his sisters farewell, and set off on his journey across the forest. Holdfast, as well as Humphrey's puppy, which had been named Watch, had grown very fine young animals. The first had been named Holdfast because it would seize the pigs by the ears and lead them into the sty, and the other because it was so alert at the least noise. But, as Humphrey said, Watch ought to have learned to lead the pigs, it being more in his line of business than Holdfast's, which was to be brought up for hunting in the forest, while Watch was being educated as a house and farmyard dog. Edward had refused to take the pony, as Humphrey required it for the farm work, and the weather was so fine that